This is where the course stops being theoretical and starts being real. Daily liquidity is one of the most visible, high stakes, and repetitive processes in Treasury. It touches leadership, it touches risk, and in most organizations, it still relies heavily on manual steps. In this module, you're going to build your first full end-to-end Treasury automation. This isn't a demo. This isn't a toy example. It's a real daily liquidity workflow that can read bank files, consolidate balances, apply thresholds, and produce a clean, reviewable output. This is the kind of automation that immediately saves time and reduces operational risk. More importantly, it's the kind of automation that builds credibility. Once this is running, people stop asking whether automation works. They start asking what you can automate next. Now, for this example, what we're going to do is build a daily liquidity analysis for our Treasury team to review. This is going to look across bank accounts to make sure that we don't have a risk anywhere, that we're not looking at low balances or unusual balances. And it's also going to look at our banking transactions to make sure that in the transactions, we're not seeing anything out of the ordinary, anything that could potentially be a fraudulent transaction or major things like that. Let's go ahead and build our agent requirements document, our agent blueprint, and our system prompt. I'm going to go ahead and snip this into a brand new chat. There we go. Paste this into a fresh chat, and then we will grab our prompt to get started with the agent requirements document. I'll go ahead and paste the prompt in here. Act as a skilled financial analyst. Using the process map I provided via attachment, create a requirements document for an AI agent workflow using N8N. The document should spell out the purpose, the inputs, the rules, the outputs, the knowledge, and the tools. Ask me any questions you need to give the best possible output. We'll send that away, and we'll see what we get back. All right, so based on the process map, here's a clean, implementation-ready requirements document you can hand to yourself or a dev to build. Of course, it will be for ourselves. The purpose is to provide automated daily liquidity monitoring by ingesting bank balances and transactions, identifying material risk or unusual activity, and proactively notifying key stakeholders. So there's our purpose. We've got our inputs coming in down here, bank account balances, transactions. As we keep scrolling, we've got our rules and our decision logic. So this was based on our section 3. Have some transaction level rules for what we're watching. Severity classification to make sure we're looking at the right things first. We have our outputs, secondary outputs, the knowledge we're going to give it. Here's the tools we're going to be working with, the responsibilities of the agent, and governance and controls. And then here's some questions to tighten this for production. How many banking accounts? I want to say it's about 15 accounts, 5 per store. Do we already have historical data? Yes, we do. Are there large recurring payments? Yes. Payroll runs every Wednesday out of the account. Alerts will go to the Treasury banking team. I do want a no issues today. It feels good to know there's no issues. And do I want to feed this into a dashboard later? Cool idea, but not at this time. All right, so we'll let it go back, and it's going to do adjustments to the requirements based on the questions we provided. And here it is coming back already. Purpose, nothing really changes here. Inputs and triggers. It's tweaking this to say there's going to be multiple accounts that we're going to be looking for. Here's our rules, balance level, large balance changes, unusualness classification. It's building in some known recurring activity handling like payroll. That's obviously a huge transaction that we're expecting. We wouldn't want to flag that. Outputs, the alert email when issues exist. There's a daily no issues email if nothing's wrong. Structured JSON. We have our knowledge requirements, our tools again, the responsibilities of the agent, and our controls and governance. Perfect. And it's already offering to go into the blueprint, so let's go ahead and do that, but we'll use our prompt. So let's go ahead and move into the blueprint. All right, act as a skilled financial analyst.
Using the agent requirements you helped me write above, create a blueprint for my AI agent workflow. I will be building the agent in N8N. The blueprint needs to include the role, the responsibilities, the inputs, the workflow, the outputs, the guardrails. Ask me any questions you need to give the best possible output. And we'll fire that away. All right, and here it is coming back already. So the role, this is to monitor daily bank balances and transactions across about 15 accounts, detect liquidity risks and unusual activity using configured thresholds and historical pattern context. I'm going to notify the Treasury banking team with either an email alert or a no issues email. So here we've got all of our responsibilities, ingest balances, normalize it, evaluate it. We're coming down to our inputs. So we're going to have our schedule and trigger inputs, our data inputs, and our configuration inputs. And now here's the critical part, which is the workflow. We're going to trigger this every day at 7 a.m. We're going to load our data. We're going to pull our bank data. We're going to normalize everything and validate it. We're going to look at balance flags. We're going to go through materiality and payroll. Now, what I'm noticing, here we go, agent node, perfect. I was going to say, this seems like it's kind of having us manually code it, but historical context retrieval, we're going to use the AI agent node for the classification, determine overall status, and email composer, yep, so we'll use the AI agent for that. Send email, audit logging, and here's what you must always produce for the outputs, and here's our guardrails. All right, so here's the quick question. So we can make it drop-in buildable. Data ingestion method is going to be Google Sheets for this example. Near zero threshold, we'll say 10% of usual balance. Let's see. Match payroll by amount range and day of week. Do we want data quality issue? No. Email format, HTML only. Also, please note that I will be having the AI agent review data against thresholds, evaluate, and write. There were those couple of places where it was a little bit having us do more coding. We don't want to do that. We want to use the agent. It was also saying there was different options for writing the email. We want the AI agent to do it all. So you can not only answer the questions, you can also give feedback if you want the blueprint adjusted. So we'll send that away. We'll let Chad do its magic. All right, and here is our blueprint coming back with our updates. So the main things we changed here are going to relate to the workflow. We didn't really change much about our inputs, our responsibilities. What I'm looking for is to see this change. Indeed it is. So now we're reading Google Sheets data instead of doing the data imports like it had before. It's still normalizing and enriching for the AI agent, but then it goes to the AI agent for the rest of the steps. So we're going to clean up all of our data with some of the So we're going to clean up all of the data with some of our code nodes, just like we did in our last example, but then everything from there will be handled by the agent. So this has been rewritten. This is going to be the monitor and the heart of everything. Also very important, if you get the AI agent right here, this is going to help as we ask it to do our system prompt next. And then step 5, route to email. Here's our outputs. It's going to be the daily email. Here's all of our AI guardrails and our operational guardrails. And then one tiny thing I still need, payroll amount. That's okay. We'll let that go. We'll fix that as we go through it. So now with our blueprint done, we can move on to our system prompt. I'm going to go ahead and grab the prompt for our system prompt. Paste this in here. The prompt for our system prompt. That's funny. Act as a skilled financial analyst. Using the agent blueprint you helped me create the master system prompt for my AI agent workflow. I will be building the agent in N8N. The system prompt needs to include the role, the tone, the rules, the behavior. Make sure the prompt is reliable, including step-by-step reasoning, explicit rules, and the output temperature, as well as the fallback behavior. Ask me any questions you need to get the best possible output. We'll fire that away, and we'll see what we get back. All right, and here comes our system prompt. You are the Treasury Liquidity Monitoring AI agent. Our role, we're going to monitor bank balances, apply thresholds, and produce a single structured JSON response that includes the status, the email, and supporting alert objects. We've got our tone, right? Like a skilled, calm Treasury analyst. No fluff, no jokes, no drama. That definitely makes sense for an email like this. We've got our non-negotiable rules. We're defining the inputs we'll receive based on the blueprint. Again, this is why we want to make sure we tell the blueprint where in the steps we want the agent so it adjusts the system prompt correctly. And then here's step-by-step evaluation. Validate the input, evaluate the balance rules, evaluate transaction rules, exclude payroll, do an unusualness evaluation. Transaction alerts must include all of this. Forward, determine the overall status, then build the email subject, then write the HTML email. Here's the formatting rules for the email. And then step 7, what happens if something goes wrong? Fallback behavior in itself is a control and a guardrail. And then we're going to define the output format so the AI gives us exactly what we're looking for. Yep, so you'll see we'll have our overall status, our balance alerts, our transaction alerts. And then here's the constraints on text. A couple optional drop-in variables we can fill in, but no questions. It's all ready to go. So with our requirements done, with our blueprint ready, with our system prompt, it's time to build. All right, and now let's get started with our build. So our first step, we're going to do a trigger, and this trigger is going to be daily. So we want the trigger interval to be days, every single day. We want this to trigger at 7 a.m. as we discussed, and at minute 0. So this will trigger right at 7 a.m. We can go ahead and execute that, and there is our output. Beautiful. Now the next step, we're going to set fields. So this is going to allow us to input any variables that we want Anyden to be able to carry along. Now for setting, we're going to use JSON. We can wipe out everything in here, and we're going to pop in the source folder ID. Now, just like all of our other examples, we're working with the F9 Finance Coffee Shop, but instead of looking at our financials, we're going to be looking at our liquidity, our bank balances, and all of that is in this banking folder. So that ID that I pulled in is going to be this ID right here. You'll see it starts 13Y, and there is our 13Y. So this is going to let us pass our source folder throughout the entire workflow. So when we work with other Google Drive nodes, it can just pull our data down. We'll execute that step, and you'll see here is our JSON, and it's outputting the source folder ID as an object that we can pull in along the way. So that's our edit fields. Let me start to give us a little bit of space because we're going to lengthen this out here. All right, there we go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Google and we're going to search files and folders. So we can pull up our Google Drive and we're going to want to search files and folders. So this is going to let us see the names and the IDs of all the files in here. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to connect with our Google Drive account. We want file folder. We're going to search. We're going to do an advanced search with a query string. We'll borrow this from some of our previous examples, referencing the source folder ID right there. That's our query string. We're going to let it return every single thing in there. And the field we care most about it bringing in is the ID field. Go ahead and execute that, and we should get back our 2 files. Yep, there's our 2 files. There's our 2 files. Brilliant. Now that we've gotten the file IDs, let's go ahead and pull them down. So now we can use Google Drive again, but this time we're going to download the files we just found. So we're going to do a file, we're going to download it, we're going to do by ID, and we're going to pull our ID in from the prior step. All right, so there's going to be our 2 IDs. Now, there's multiple IDs in there, but Anyden is going to run it repeatedly to download every single file. And then for options, because they're Google files, we want to convert them. So here's our conversion. Google Docs will go to HTML, Google Drawings will go to JPEG, Google Slides will go to PowerPoint, and Google Sheets, most relevant to us, will go to a CSV. So we can execute that step, and then we should see our files download right over here. Indeed, they did. So there's our 2 files, bank data day 2, bank data day 1. Now, I am being a little bit limited. Obviously, we talked about 90-day lookbacks and things like that, but I want to make sure you really understand the structure and how to build this versus just piling all the data in. So that is our executed download file. Then from there, what we want to do is we want to take that CSV file. Then we want to take that CSV file and we want to turn it into something that our AI will work with. And we're going to do this in 2 steps. So let's go ahead and go to an extract node. Now we're going to take the binary CSV data and turn it into JSON, which we can more easily translate into a string for our AI tool. So we're going to extract from CSV. The input binary field is called data. See right there, data, data. That's what we set it up as. And we don't need any options. It's just going to put this right into JSON for us. All right, there is our JSON output. Here is all of our bank balances, our locations, what's sitting in the accounts. Excellent.
Now that it's extracted, we're going to go ahead and run the code that ChatGPT gave us. So let's go ahead and do code. Here we're going to run custom JavaScript code. So going back to our blueprint, here is the code that we were given. So we'll copy this code. We'll bring it over here. We can just overwrite everything already there. Brilliant. So we'll execute this step, and this will run our data into a format that the AI tool can work with. And here it is. Here's our concatenated AI input text ready to go into an AI agent. All right, so we've got data ready. Now let's build our agent. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull in our AI agent node. We're going to have this done from a definition below, and we want to pull in the AI input text. Remember, the prompt is where you feed in the information. We go to options to use our system prompt. So there's our message. We're going to require a specific output format, which our system prompt's going to handle. And then in options, we want to put system message. For the system message, we're going to come back over to our system prompt, and we're going to copy and paste all of this over. This is quite a long system prompt because we have those multiple templates that it's repeating. All right, we'll go ahead and pop that in here. So there is our system prompt. There's our information being fed in. Let's go ahead and execute. A chat model subnode must be connected. I completely forgot to put the chat model on. So we'll go ahead and hit chat model. See, even if you do this all the time, this is what I want to emphasize. Even if you do this all the time, you still make mistakes. So don't feel bad as you're going through this and it feels really clunky and uncomfortable. I've been building a lot of these agent workflows and I still just forgot to attach a chat model, which is kind of the most important part. So let's go ahead and pop this in here. Here's OpenAI chat model. I want to use GPT-5 mini, which will be really great for this. I'm going to use my responses API, and then I want to add code interpreter as a tool to be able to work with our files. Okay, so now that we've done that correctly and have the most important part, let's go ahead and execute the step. And now it's actually running using ChatGPT. So we'll let that node execute. It's going to pull in all the information, use the system prompt, go run the ChatGPT model, and it will come back with our information. All right, and it's run. Now it is saying it had some liquidity run issues due to some of the data was missing. So let's see. So some of the specific data it was looking for is missing, but we got it to run. So we'll come back and tweak that in our testing and validation step. But we have this running, and it is in an email format and using one of our templates. So that's great. So let's go ahead and come on to our next step. So our last step is going to be to send a message. So here's our message. Now you'll notice I'm directly sending a message, and I've usually said you don't want to just directly send messages. You want to put, a human in the loop, or you want to do some type of a review process, put it in a draft. But in this case, this is a daily update to the team. This isn't going to any executives. It may go to the Treasury executive, but this isn't going to any executives who are expecting a polished document. This is a rough document just saying, is there anything we need to immediately look at? Or can we just start going about our day and going through the other things we need to do? That's the purpose of this. And it's daily, so it's okay. This is not a month-end package. It's okay if it just sends out immediately. So we're going to connect to our Gmail account. We're going to do a message. We're going to send it. Let's start for now, just going to me. Our subject line is going to be daily liquidity update. All right, our email type will be HTML. We're going to pull our AI agent output. There it is. Do we need any options? We could put options in here, but we don't need to right now. We could CC some of the team if we wanted to. But for now, we'll just go ahead and execute the step. All right, it has been sent. So we've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is our email ran and sent it, and it's running with the AI agent's content. Now, the bad news is we need Now, the bad news, or should I say the news of things we have to fix, in the testing and tracing process, we need to look at really two things. First of all, it's not formatting this email in a nice, pretty HTML format to read. We don't need to be fancy, but we need the email to be readable. And second of all, we see here that it's saying that there's some data that's not being provided. So we want to fix that in the testing and tracing process. But we have a functional agent that was able to run all of the steps. So again, if you wanted to, you'd be able to come right in here, hit the execute button, and all of the steps are going to work, knowing that those two things we're going to have to address and fix. But all of it is running for us, and we have a fully baked liquidity summary to work with. So let's work through our testing and updating process because we have those two issues we want to fix. Again, the first one is going to be we want to be able to pass through data even if it's not in exactly the perfect structure. We want it to be a little bit more dynamic. And second, we want the HTML to come out a lot cleaner so that we get a more readable email. It doesn't need to be pretty, it just needs to be readable, which it really wasn't. So that's going to need to fix two things. We're going to need to fix the code for our JavaScript that's creating the string of data, and we're going to need to adjust our system prompt. So let's go back to the AI. I need your help adjusting the system prompt and the JSON. Help make both more dynamic so they don't need to receive every specific piece of information. And this is actually not the JSON. This is going to be the JavaScript. I need help adjusting the system prompt in the JavaScript. Help make both more dynamic so they don't need to receive every specific piece of information. Have the JavaScript stringify whatever it receives and have the AI agent work with whatever it receives from the string. All right, we'll send that away and we'll hopefully get back a shortened, condensed, simplified JavaScript and a slightly tweaked, again, simplified and condensed system prompt. So it wants less brittle plumbing. The JS code node should stop trying to understand the data, just package it into a string. And the system prompt should not expect a perfectly shaped JSON. So that's what we're looking for. It's just being too specific. Right now it's saying, hey, I need these 5 exact things. Otherwise, you can't do the work. What I want to say is these aren't perfect. If it's perfect, if it needs to be these exact columns and these exact rows, that's really robotic process automation, not AI. We want to leverage the ability of this to actually do work and to think along the way. So here's our updated JavaScript. You see it's safely stringifying with truncation guards, giving a basic shape summary. All right, there's our AI input text for the JSON. And then here's the updated system prompt coming in, which again should trim this down and make it a little bit easier for the AI tool to function. So while that's coming in, let's move the JSON over. We'll go ahead and copy this code. We'll bring it to our code right here. And I keep saying JSON. This is the JavaScript. So let's pop this right here. All right, so we'll execute that. So here, this is the dynamic stringify. It's going to take whatever comes in, make it one text, include minimal metadata to tell AI what's coming, and then send it along. We'll see if we've got our updated system prompt back. There it is. So we'll come over, we'll go to our system prompt. We'll update this. All right, and then we're just going to run the full workflow to see how this goes. So we'll execute the workflow. There it is triggering. We're downloading the files. It's already moved on to the AI agent. Now, again, this can take 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds. AI agents do take a while to run. They're doing some reasoning, some planning. So it's not really concerning if this takes a little while. We've got that node executing over here. It's been running for 18 seconds so far. It's already engaged the chat model. I'm also now realizing I can't remember if I told it to fix the HTML, so we may need to go back and do that as well, but we'll see what we get. Because remember, when this is done, it's going to automatically send the email, so we can just go right to the email to check and see what we got. Okay, and here is our output. It looks like we got a lot more information this time. Let's go check our email. Okay, here is our summary. So I did indeed forget to tell it about HTML. That's okay, we can go back. But it is doing information. If you remember last time, it said everything was not provided. This time, it's saying it looks a lot better. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this and I'm going to copy it over and say the updates were great. I need one additional update. The email looks like the below. I need to make sure the output is structured and in HTML. It looks like the below, which is not easy to read. All right, so there's that. Let's paste in what we got, just that big old block of text. We'll send that away. And then this should just update the system prompt. This shouldn't have a need to update the JavaScript. All right, so making the system prompt output HTML only, forcing line breaks and white space. And it's saying we just need to do a drop-in for the output section. So we don't need to do everything. We're just going to fix the output format. If we got style guidelines, structure, template. And once this is all done, we can copy it and just drop this in. Again, it's not having us replace the whole system prompt, just the output section. Giving us a very nice full-on structure here. We're down to optional data notes. Looks like we should be almost done. Here's rules if there's an issue or if there's none. This is going to be a great email if this works. Next step bullets. All right, there it goes. So we'll go ahead and copy this code in. Go over here. We will update our system prompt, just the output section. So we'll scroll down to output. See, it said plain text only originally, so we'll go ahead and be able to fix this. Final instruction. Okay. There's that, and then we'll pull out the final instruction because it's saying return the plain text, and we don't want that. And we'll come back again, and we will execute the full workflow. Downloading files, extracting, coding. Now the AI agent is running ChatGPT. I'm excited. I think this could be the time. So coming over to our email, this was the time we got it working. Look at this email. Here's the coverage. Balances were detected. Yes, it didn't see the transactions. Here's the executive summary. 1 negative balance. Oof. 3 accounts scanned. Total 4 items to review. Here's what we want to review. We have a negative balance, large day over day moving, and balance changes. It's probably routine, but still something to look at. Over here, though, we need to make sure we have this massive transfer plan from the settlement. No transaction level records provided. We have our data notes, and then we have next steps. So the first thing to do is to review the negative balance in the Astoria operating checking account. But there it is, our well-formatted daily briefing. Can you just imagine how much easier your day would start getting an update like this without a single person have to lift a finger? How cool is this? So with our daily liquidity summary built out, it's time to run some test cases. So I'm going to go ahead and use our trusty snipping tool so we can feed our final structure into the AI tool. So let's go ahead and grab this. This will be our daily liquidity summary. And there we go. All right. Here is the final N8N build out of my daily liquidity summary automation. Help me design test cases to validate the performance. All right, and then we'll go ahead and attach that. And we'll send that away. And then this way, we don't have to think about the test cases. This can generate them for us. This can look at the final structure to make sure we're testing the right things. And this will often come up with things that I would have never even thought of for testing. And now you'll notice that it's actually gone into thinking mode. Again, a benefit of using this is it's going to come back with things we probably never would have thought of, because even this question has pushed ChatGPT into thinking mode. So it's generating a test matrix for workflow validation after doing some searching and some planning. It's just absolutely incredible how far these tools have come. And really, anytime you get stuck, anytime you have new work to do on the agent, you can always come back to the AI tools to help you build it out. All right, so it thought for 35 seconds. Here's how I'd like to test this thing like I don't trust it, because I don't. That's funny. I like that an AI tool that is the same AI tool that we're using it is saying it doesn't trust itself. That's actually kind of funny if we think about it. So we want to test the baseline happy path, prove it works at all. And we've done that. We did a test, we ran it, we said, does this work? And we got the email. So we've done the basic happy path. 2, schedule and date logic. We need to make sure it runs at our expected local time, and we need to understand what it does on weekends and holidays. We can also duplicate the trigger and doubly run it. All right, some more tests so we can see for Google Drive what happens if there's no files, what happens if there's an API failure, what happens if something changes with the CSV. Is it able to handle something changing in the files or a column missing? JavaScript is what happens if the totals don't tie out, what happens if there's balance issues. The AI output. Now, there's a lot of test cases here. For something this simple and basic, we definitely don't need to be running, how many did it give us? We don't need to be running 24 tests, but we're going to pick out some of these really critical ones and make sure we run them. So there's the AI agent output format contract, no news day, high variance, token controls, and Gmail. Is there any deliverability issues? What if there's a Gmail failure? And what are the guardrails? And then there's some performance test cases just to make sure that the size and timing of this is running. So we'll pick out a few of the critical ones to make sure this works. I think a good one to start with is, what if the file's not there? So let's go ahead. We're going to go to our Google Drive. All right, so we're in our banking data folder. Let's just say, what happens if these 2 files aren't here? Let's move them out of the folder and there's no data available. And let's go ahead and run our liquidity summary and see what happens. So this is an example where there is no data. All right, no output data returned. So the workflow stopped running because there were no files available. So that's good on one hand, we didn't get it. The downside is, because there were no files and because it errored, we aren't getting an output. So that's something we would want to consider fixing and saying, hey, if there's an error, we want to still find a way to send a notification. So something that you could do here is we could add an if statement in here, right? And we could say if IDs are blank, so if the IDs are blank, we're going to want to do an email. And if the IDs are true, so this is the one we'll actually contend. And then if they're true, we could go up here and we could add another Gmail node. All right, and we'll send a message. We'll send this to myself. Daily liquidity failed. Data not available. Okay, so now if we go ahead and execute this, all right, so now because now we've added in this if node to send a message that there was a failure. We see in this case it followed the true path saying it failed, and it's sending a message to me saying, hey, this failed. So this is a great test case because we actually found a place where this would just stop running and potentially no one would notice. So here's our email. It's very simple, but the subject says daily liquidity failed. It's saying data not available. Now I, as the user of this, know I need to go check. What you don't want to have happen is it just doesn't run and nobody notices. So it was a great test and we were able to fix that. Now we can go put this back so we can do another test. Let's go ahead and put this back in banking. That way it'll run. And what was another test that was suggested? So say something is wrong with one of the CSV files. We could test something with the JavaScript. Let's go to the one of the CSV files. All right, here's our bank data. And let's delete the balances. Before I do that, though, let me just put them over here so we don't lose them. All right, but there's our balances. We're going to delete the balances. And now when we run this, it should say it doesn't have the information. All right, so let's go ahead and execute it. So the files are back. It should go down the false node saying false, there's no error here. But when it downloads and extracts, the AI agent should find there's no data. So let's go ahead and run that. All right, yep, you'll see it passed because the files are there. They're downloaded. They're with the AI agent. All right, it's processing. Notice there were also some test cases on the bottom about saying performance. So these logs you're getting down here, this is the overview. You can go to the detail logs. You can see all the details about how long things are taking. So everything you could possibly need is here. You can pop this panel out, whatever you need to do to check the logs. So I typically, for a smaller agent like this, I'm typically doing my performance testing as we go, right? Because I can see if this is taking forever, we have a problem. All right, and you can definitely tell it was struggling a little bit here. So there's the AI agent, there's the send a message. Okay, so what do we get here? The daily liquidity summary, balances were detected only partial because we had them for prior. We don't have them today. Current balance are missing, and the executive summary is that there's a data issue and it's highlighted in yellow. So this is working. We've had two major checks. The workflow can keep going if there's no data. If the data changes, it's not going to try to make something up. So this is all really good news. And this is how you go through the test process on this to make sure things are working as they need to. So now that we've got our agent built, we've got our testing complete, it's time to prep for our leadership review, and then again, do that control sheet that's going to help transition the document and also make sure all the compliance teams are happy. So let's start with our one-page leadership review. I'm going to go ahead and put a prompt in here. We'll just keep working in the same chat we were working with earlier. Act as a skilled financial analyst. I want to document my workflow and its benefits for leadership. Using the blueprint provided, write a one-page overview and a headline summary. I built the agent and end-to-end. The one-page overview needs to include the purpose, the owner, the inputs, the outputs, and the limitations. The headline summary needs to include, this agent saves X hours a month, supports Y process, has Z controls in place. Ask me any questions you need to give the best possible output. We'll send that away, and we'll have chat do its magic. And it's already coming back lightning fast, so here's our AI-driven daily liquidity monitoring agent one-page overview. That is a mouthful. All right, so it's coming back. It's actually doing the questions first before it writes that. So let's see, how many hours saved? Let's say this is going to save 20 hours a month. What's the process name? You choose 3. And then the controls phrasing. Let's say exec friendly. We'll save the conservative and strong tone from when we do the control sheet. So those are our answers. Now it's going to give us our thing back. I never mind that when I ask the questions first. Always good to get it, right out of the gate instead of doing all the work, writing the long thing, and then having to ask questions. So the daily liquidity monitoring agent provides automated, consistent oversight of company cash balances and material activity across all operating accounts. Our primary objectives are to improve visibility, identify liquidity risks, detect material or unexpected bank activity, and reduce reliance on manual review. That's fantastic. Our owner is Treasury with help from the finance automation team. Here's our inputs. Here's our outputs, which is either an alert email or a no issues, the limitations, and the business impact. Now, I do think I'm not seeing, there it is, it's right up top. This agent saves 20 hours per month, supports daily liquidity risk management, and has built-in risk controls and oversight. Perfect. So there is our summary. We can take this, we can write it as one-page memo if that's how your company does it. We can put it into a PowerPoint slide, one-pager if that's how your company does it. Whatever you need, you have all the content here. Now the last step is to build our control sheet to keep our compliance and audit teams happy and also to be able to hand this document off. So we'll keep working in the same chat. It knows everything about our agent already. Go ahead and copy this over. Act as a skilled financial analyst. I want to document my workflow for compliance and handoff. Using the blueprint provided via attachment as well as the audit logs, build the control sheet. I built the agent and end-to-end. The control needs to include the purpose, the data used, permitted actions, risks and mitigations, test cases passed. Ask me any questions you need to give the best possible output. We'll send that away and let it go to work. All right, and it's coming back. Oh, this is great. This is exactly how you make this hand-offable and audit defensible instead of Mike's cool bot. That's funny. So here comes our control sheet. Here's our control name, the daily liquidity monitoring agent. Have our purpose again.
This is going to look a lot like the leadership review. That's why I do that first, because I make sure we kind of capture the essence of it before we get into the controls. So here's going with our data used, our data sources. You can, of course, tweak this to be your specific data sources. If it's an ERP or specific bank files, you can add into this if needed. Have our permitted actions. We have our allowed actions and our explicitly prohibited actions. We have our risks and mitigation. So here's some of the risks and what we're doing to mitigate it. This is stuff that the compliance and audit teams and even IT love. So all of our risks there. Here's the test cases passed. We've got our balance controls, our transaction controls, our workflow execution, our evidence and audit trail. And what I still need to finalize this is the blueprint and the sample audit log output. So then we've got our test cases, our balance controls, our transaction controls, our workflow execution, and here is our evidence and audit trail. So there is our control sheet. It's ready to hand off, and your workflow is built.
At this point, you've done something most Treasury teams never get to. You've turned a critical daily process into a repeatable, automated workflow. You've reduced manual handling, you've improved consistency, and you've created an output that leadership can rely on. This is not just about saving time. It's about making liquidity visibility more reliable and less dependent on any one person. In the next module, we're going to build on this foundation. Instead of summarizing what already happened, we'll start building automations that actively monitor and alert you when something needs attention. That's where automation becomes proactive. So with that, let's move on to cash movement alerts.